rare and balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic, providing context on today's events. This is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to American Perspective. I am your host, Rick. I was just in the chat. Now, remember, keep in mind, Rumble allows me to open up the video early, meaning that I can go and basically go and start up the video on Rumble so that my chatters can come in, my watchers, my Whiskey Warrior P1s, can come in and chat in and amongst themselves before the show. Now, I usually turn this thing on roughly about 45 minutes or so before, but sometimes, like tonight, I didn't get to it until, 20 minutes till. So it's not something that I always do 100% of the time. But I do try to give you guys at least, open up the channel at least a hour or something along those lines. Okay. Now, all of that being said, let me explain what happened here. So all of that being said, my chatter started to come in. And of course, usually I see the first person right about 20 minutes ish. And that's typically either, to be honest with you, it's either my news or Bonnie. Sometimes Amy, occasionally it'll be Outlaw Dogs. And then, of course, the rest, everybody just kind of trickles in. Well, as they were trickling in tonight, they were talking about different things. And Buddy, of course, longtime Whiskey Warrior P1, I mean, just absolutely long time. He was asking me about my setup and some of the things that I do. And so, one of these days, probably not too far in the near future, far, near, yeah, see that? Anyway, probably not too far in the future, what I will do is I will create a behind-the-scenes video so that you guys can see a little bit of what I do, okay, in terms of getting set up for the show, how that things go, how those things go and that kind of stuff. Because, I mean, sometimes, all you guys see is just this and the screen behind me. And then, of course, whatever I happen to show you on the video. So sometimes it's a little fascinating to some anyway, as to what things look like behind the scenes. And so I'm going to do that for you sometime in the near future. I have a little bit of time coming up right before Thanksgiving. And so that's probably when it'll drop. And I don't know if I'll either do it as like, hey, I'm going to open up this first and then you guys can come in and I'll show you sort of what's going on. Or if I just do it as a static video and then you guys just show it later. If you have a preference, then please go ahead and, hop that into the chat or whatever. And I will go from there. But anyway. Just so that you guys get a full understanding of all of this that's going on. That be, again, all of that. Yes, I do have multiple monitors and I have a bunch of stuff that goes on throughout the whole thing. So there we go. Anyway, all right, let's go ahead and get things kicked off tonight. Of course, for the pledge, we have the venerable, the wise Buddy Wiser over on Rumble, who's going to lead us. So please, if you are of mine, stand, remove your hat if you're wearing one. And if not, just place your hand over your heart. I'm sorry, I have some fuzz on the mic here that's tickling my beard. Anyway, so please stand, remove your hats, and place your hand over your heart and follow along with Buddy Wiser in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I hereby pledge my allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which she stands, one nation under one God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all her citizens. So help me God.
Thank you, buddy, for leading that wonderful rendition and recitation of the Pledge of Allegiance. If you would like to hear your rendition of the Pledge of Allegiance, all you need to do is record yourself reciting it in your style, take that audio file, attach it to an email, and put this address in the to section. Fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. That's fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. And I will get you into the rotation for that. All right. So for tonight's sponsor, I have a special image that I need to bring up here. Tonight's sponsor, of course, is going to be theflagshirt.com, and check this out. Whoops, wrong way. This is Bonnie and Fat Paws. Bonnie and Fat Paws wearing their theflagshirt.com shirts. Fat Paws, I gotta tell you, that shirt, well, you make the shirt look fantastic, but that shirt alone makes me look fantastic. See, I'm wearing the exact same one. The Mount Rushmore. I had to think about that for a second. The Mount Rushmore shirt. You guys look fantastic with that. By the way, you can send that picture in to theflagshirt.com. They have a place where you can share and do a review and share your images. So if you want to, you can put that on there. But anyway, so both Bonnie and Fat Paws are wearing the shirts from theflagshirt.com, and you can look stylish like us as well in patriotic style by heading off to theflagshirt.com. That's right, theflagshirt.com. If you head on over there now, they've got their Veterans Day sale still going on, 10% off site-wide by using the code VETERAN10. That's VETERAN 10 at checkout in the promo box. That's what you put in, VETERAN10 in the promo box at checkout, and you'll get 10% off all of your entire order. Also, too, don't forget that if you purchase $75 or more of gear, they will give you free shipping. That's just their standard thing. So $75 or more, they get free shipping. But right now, they have their Veterans Day sale running on, 10% off site-wide. Using the code VETERAN, VETERAN 10, VETERAN10 at checkout in the promo box to get yourself 10% off at theflagshirt.com. Go to theflagshirt.com and get yourself patriotized. Okay, I got to remember what the heck I'm doing here. So, sometimes I get lost whenever I do something different. It's like I get into a groove, and then something new kind of throws things off. Okay, let me do a shout out. It looks like a new arrival shout out on Facebook to Ellie Mae. Ellie Mae, welcome to the program. I don't know what happened, but it looks like you're I don't know what's going on. I mean, maybe that's a bot or something. Anyway, maybe not. I don't know. Her comment in the Facebook side is grayed out, so I don't know why. But anyway, hello, Ellie Mae. All right. Let's get on to the program. Well, the last couple of times, I honestly, Bam, I'm telling you, I'm okay. I'm going to try and get there. I'm going to try and get there. I promise. Bam's asking for a specific, clothing item, and I'll get there. I promise. Okay. So one thing that I wanted to do, after the election, because I really think this gentleman single-handedly, as many people worked on the election to get Donald Trump elected and more Republicans elected, more Republicans elected, than just about anybody, realistically, they all They all worked hard. Everybody worked hard, including going out and like finding people and making sure that everybody voted and doing, you know, the whole 10 people, 10 people, 10 people thing. I mean, that is all those kinds of things. That is just, just amazing. But this one gentleman, I think, worked a little bit harder than anyone else. Yeah, you guys can do whatever you want with that. Anyway, this one gentleman deserves quite a bit. I mean, quite a bit of the lauds and approvals. Scott Presler, folks, I'm telling you right here, is just phenomenal. He went through in Pennsylvania and registered so many people to vote that he actually delivered, or, you know, did, I would say, probably the most of the heavy lifting in Pennsylvania to deliver Pennsylvania for Donald Trump. And this gentleman, I'm telling you, he did a fantastic job. So props to him for all of the work that he did to bring in Pennsylvania into the Donald Trump column. I just got to say, not only that, but he also got, apparently, they also got the Senate flipped over there. They got rid of Bob Casey. So, yeah, he did a fantastic job getting people signed up. He went in there with the idea to make sure that there were voter registrations. Now, he did not separate with them. He did not want to separate them, but he signed up both Republicans and Democrats, but he really was pushing the Republican platform and everything else. He did a fantastic job. So props to him. Give him a round of applause if you happen to see him or whatever. Yeah, just there you go. I'm being told I don't know if this is 100% true, but I can tell you it's coming from a Whiskey Warrior, so I think it is. I've got no reason to think that it isn't anyway. G is saying that Scott Presler is apparently buying a house in Pennsylvania and pledges to make Pennsylvania look like Florida, meaning it's going to be red. So anyway, and apparently Bob Casey, according to Judge Wild, who is another, he's a newer one to the crew, but Judge Wild, who, if you haven't checked out some of his streams, you ought to. He streams every single day, about 3 or 4 times a day with different topics and stuff. Mostly things about news and articles, and definitely a heck of a lot of snark. So go and check him out, Judge Wild. He does Intelligent Talk with Judge Wild is the big one. And then he also does a shopping channel, or a shopping stream as well. Anyway, Bob Casey is apparently still not conceding. Doesn't really surprise me any. It's probably going to go to a recount anyway, because that's the way Pennsylvania's laws work, is that if it's within 0.5%, then they automatically kick off a recount automatically. But anyway, so round of applause to Scott Presler. Scott Presler, the man, the myth, the legend out there doing the hard work. All right. So one of the things that are, oh boy. Okay, one of the things that is going on around with all of this is this idea now that for some reason the Democrats are kind of thinking, they're going, okay, we're missing about 15 million votes. What the heck happened to the 15? Or I've seen numbers between 15 and 20 million in terms of votes. And they're sitting there and they're like, where did all those people go? 15 or 20 million, man, they just vaporized. They're gone. Well, I think I pointed this out to you a couple episodes ago, that the reason why those people disappeared and are gone is because their votes weren't manufactured in 2024 like they were in 2020. Yes, I said it. The numbers, the additional numbers from the number of votes that have been cast from, say, 2008 to 2012 to 2016 to 2020 to, 2024, okay, those votes that were cast, they all kind of are pretty close to one another, all right? The outlier is in 2020. That's what we've been telling you folks since 2020. In fact, that was one of the first freaking things that I talked about on this program. Okay, 2020 is an outlier. It's a complete outlier. And when you look at the massive amount of numbers that occurred, I mean, seriously, it's called the KISS method. Keep it simple, stupid. And Occam's razor. Again, the simplest answer is logically the right one, which is essentially that the votes were manufactured and you guys couldn't do it this year. You couldn't pull it off because too many people were watching what was going on and paying attention. Not to mention the fact that most of the rule changes that happened in 2020 because of the pandemic and opening up all those mail-in balloting on special regulations because of the pandemic. That's basically what happened. That's where they went. Okay, that's where they went. And they're all starting to notice it again. They're all starting to notice it again. Hey, Joan, Mark's in the chat there with you on Facebook. I see you. You're there. Anyway, so it's not just the Democrats that are starting to notice, although they're the ones. One thing about the Democrats is they never think ahead. They never think beyond whatever is right in front of them. And so they have a hard time. They have a really hard time trying to figure out, okay, and then what? They can't ask that question because realistically, I mean, let's face it, their brains are kind of small. They have a hard time thinking beyond whatever is in front of them. We get it. It's okay. But here in the Midwesterner, analysis. 2024 election marked return to voting norms. Harris's showing returned to within a standard deviation of historical Democrat turnout. I don't know what to tell you here, people. I mean, this is part of the reason, and a good part of the reason, as to why we are sitting here talking about 2020 being stolen. I have told you guys before, I've talked about it, and you can go all the way back to 2020 because I talked about it. It is statistically improbable. Now, I won't say impossible, but it is statistically improbable to have a pack of data that is trending in a certain direction. For an example, you have a given voting district, and in that voting district, the split between Democrat votes and Republican votes, okay, say it breaks down 60-40. Doesn't make a difference as to who's the 60 or who's the 40, just the votes are breaking 60-40, okay? And as that goes along and things start to add up, and there's bigger sample sizes and everything, that trend stays relatively the same. Now, it won't always stay in a 60-40. Sometimes it'll go to, maybe a 57-43 or 42 or whatever, and it'll kind of shift. But generally speaking, and this is kind of I don't know if it's necessarily a law, but it's definitely a rule of thumb when you're dealing with this. In 2020, all of a sudden at like 4 o'clock in the morning or 1 o'clock in the morning or whenever it was, you all of a sudden got a data dump where 100% of the votes that came in went to one candidate or another. That is statistically improbable, considering the fact that the original premise is that the data and the data that were coming in terms of the votes, were doing a 60-40 split. Okay, so that's why everybody was asking the questions. That's why everybody was like, hey, wait a minute, that doesn't sound right. It is not a mathematical statistic for that to happen. Okay. Now, that being said, another mathematical statistic is that you can have trends, and we've had trends, we've watched trends, but if you'll notice, in terms of the number of votes cast, they don't change that much. And here's the diagram that I'm talking about. If you take a look at this thing, the trend is that, it might go up a little bit and that kind of stuff. It might go up, might go down. But generally speaking, you're not going to get like this huge, massive spike. It's going to be just a gradual up or down or whatever. In 2020, man, all of a sudden we had this huge spike, and now they're wondering where the hell 15 to 20 million votes went. They were like, where did all these Democrats go? Well, that's, of course, assuming that they existed in the first freaking place. Now, I can tell you from statistical analysis, too, is that the general rule of thumb is that not all of the electorate actually votes. Stephen Stiles and I were talking about this not just the other day. If you assume a roughly 330 million people in terms of our population, and then you peel out the ones that can't vote, okay, so things like people under age, so let's just say that's about a 60-40 split, so, or a 1/3, 2/3, just to make the math easy, so about 110 million get peeled out right away because they are underage. They cannot vote. And so now you're left with 220 million people who can vote. But the census counts people who are not citizens as a part of it. So now let's assume a roughly, maybe 10% or something like that. Maybe a little more, 20%. Okay, so now you're taking about 40 million off the top from that. So we were at 220 million. Now we're at about 180 million. And then you go and split that up, and it's almost impossible. Now, so about 180 million. I didn't take this far enough. So about 180 million are eligible to vote. Only 60% of those actually do vote. And now you're looking at, roughly 120, 130. And then you have numbers like what you show up with, where 81 million for Joe Biden and 75 million for Donald Trump in 2020. Yeah, that doesn't add up properly. And that's part of the problem. That's what we were doing, meaning the conservatives and the questioners, the election deniers, were talking about this, saying this stuff is improbable. There is no way this is happening. And now the Democrats, being the morons that they are, they're starting to out themselves. And they're starting to question, hey, wait a minute, where did those 15 and 20 million votes go? Those 15 to 20 million votes didn't exist until 2020. That's what we've been trying to tell you. And you guys and gals, all frickin' don't get it. So anyway, the trend line, of course, for Democrat voting is called out in the piece here, where Barack Obama garnered about 69 million votes, and he was supposed to be an extremely popular president at the time, both in 2008 and in 2012. So that's both times. Then Hillary Clinton managed to get about 65 million votes against Trump in 2016. Of course, she lost. And so now you're looking at Harris getting a return of right around 66 to 67 million popular votes. So she's right in line with where the Democrats usually sit. And by the way, you can go a little bit farther back, accounting for population, and it's about the same across the board, with the exception of 2020. Anyway, all they want to do is they want to try and relitigate this, and they're sitting there saying, we need a recount. We need a recount. Well, why would you recount when all of a sudden now your outlier is showing up? Again, these people are not exactly the sharpest knives in the drawer or the sharpest tools in the shed. Okay? Well, one thing that Democrats, I've said this on the program, and I got to tell you, one thing that I really admire Democrats for, and I mean, this is both a blessing and a curse at the same time, which is essentially that the Democrats have this way where they are of a hive mind, meaning that one person says it, the rest of them snap to. It's almost like a total brainwashing technique. And what ends up happening is you're sitting there and one of them says it, and I'm telling you, I swear to you, this happens all the time on social media. One account says it, and then next thing you know, they all are saying it in exactly the same way. It's why we sometimes refer to them as the Borg from Star Trek. They are interconnected. They have some sort of a hive mind, and they all are stuck together and think the same way and spew the same crap. And that's exactly what they do. Now, that's impressive only from the standpoint of when you watch them, they don't necessarily do any infighting within amongst themselves. At least you usually don't see it. And by golly, if somebody from the outside attacks one of their members, one of their people that they have close in, what ends up happening is it's almost like hitting a bee or having one bee sting you and leave its frickin' hormones because it just stung you. The rest of the hive and gets on you. And now you're in trouble because now you're getting stung all over the place. This is all reminiscent or all, I should say, demonstrating their hive mind. I got lost. But demonstrating their hive mind. Well, now, today, looks like that hive mind is cracking. Here's the first of two articles, this one in Red State. Philly Dem Party chair lights up Kamala HQ as the Democrat Civil War gets hotter. Well, really? So let's take a look at what this is all about.
Active campaign here by the Harris team. And then he said that Philadelphia concert on the eve of the election was a total waste of money.
I got more complaints, including my daughter-in-law. Traffic jam after traffic jam. You couldn't get out. So what happens? They're mad. What? And why is this happening? Because of a concert that she showed up at 11:30 at night? Give me a break.
Do you think it changed anybody's mind, or?
It doesn't look like it, does it? The outcome didn't show it. I would think probably most of them people weren't even from the city of Philadelphia.
The Harris campaign fired back, quote, "If there's any immediate takeaway from Philadelphia's turnout this cycle, it is that Chairman Brady's decades-long practice of fleecing campaigns for money to make up for his lack of fundraising ability or leadership is a worthless endeavor that no future campaign should ever be forced to entertain again." Wow. The Senate race here is too close to call, by the way. The Republican challenger, though, David.
Okay, so just so you know, that was prior to the Senate campaign, but wow, they're starting to chip at each other. Now, what's really one thing that the Democrats do have a problem with, and I've said this before, there is no, there's no blame for me. It's all because of somebody else. See, the Democrats don't know how to look in the mirror and go, you know what? Maybe it was our stupid asses that lost this, not because of anything else. I mean, all you have to do is look at all of the things that they have been doing. They, look at the mainstream media. Oh my gosh, every single one of them have been talking about what's to blame? Well, what's to blame for her loss? Well, it's misogyny. It's racism. It's, white men and women. Oh, it's whatever. Rather than looking in the mirror and going, you know what? We floated out a really garbage candidate. And then we went and replaced him with another even worse garbage candidate and jammed it down the throats of our own electorate. And we've been pushing and pushing and pushing all kinds of anti-American policies. We have tried to convince everybody that the economy is absolutely wonderful when they're living paycheck to paycheck to paycheck, barely making ends meet, not able to pay for their food. But hey, you know what? As long as we keep telling them that CRT, DEI, transgenderism, all of this other stuff is exactly what the American people want. And oh my gosh, let's tell them all about abortion because, hey, that's what everybody has on their mind right now. Yeah, no, that's, they can't do it. They cannot look in the mirror and admit, you know what, that was our fault. And so, you know what? Keep going, Democrats. Please keep going. What made you lose this time is what's going to make you lose again if you want to continue down this path. Because all you're doing is denigrating Americans. You're telling them that their chosen way of life, their chosen principles and values, you're going to sit there and demonize them, denigrate them, calling them names, telling them that they are stupid and unworthy and everything else, and that the path. And by the way, that path is more government control. Yeah, just keep doing it. Keep doing it. This was a literal mandate. It was a mandate that was put out there. But the one person that may have, at first, I thought, might have skated off scot-free with this whole thing because he essentially begrudgingly did exactly what they wanted to do. They wanted him to do, I should say, which is basically get the hell out of the way. And that apparently he's still the target. Here it is in Politico, otherwise known as Bullshitico, which is the Democrat playbook newspaper that basically says, hey, Democrats, this is what we want you to think today. Dems rage against Biden's arrogance after a Harris loss. Democrat leaders had hoped Harris could separate herself from Biden's deficiencies. Yeah, the woman was in the administration for the last 3+ years, and in 107 days, you want her to separate herself from Biden when she's caught on The View basically answering Sonny Hostin's question, what would you do differently? And she responds, I don't know, because I can't think of one thing to do differently. Yeah. Again, just saying it. You floated out a garbage candidate in 2016. You floated out a garbage candidate in 2020 who you decided to support and shore up. And when you got caught at it, you floated out another garbage candidate in 2024 and you got your ass handed to you. Yep. That's exactly what happened, folks. But the Democrats are not going to look in the mirror and say, this is something we need to, maybe we need to tack back toward the moderate side. Nope, they're not going to. They're not going to. And I hope that they don't. Stay there, please. Stay far to the left, because I guarantee you, by the way, I don't know if anybody heard this, but I've been hearing reports, unconfirmed, granted, but they were reports that there was close to 45% of the Hispanic vote went to Donald Trump. 45%. Really? I mean, that's almost 50% of the Hispanic vote. Folks, this win is historic for a bunch of different reasons. The Democrats have lost a large portion of their base, and the Republicans have picked it up. And now, Republicans, hear me. I'm throwing this out here. You need to keep it by not being wimps. You've promised the American people that you were going to take care of a lot of this bullcrap that the Democrats have been shoving down our throats for the last 4 years. And now you need to make good on those promises. Folks, and I'm talking to the Republican Party, you were given a mandate. That mandate came from the American people. You now need to grow some cojones and get it done. Fix this crap and make it permanent, such that if the Democrats, for God knows whatever reason, end up getting back in power, that they can't undo it. That's what we're asking for. That's what we're asking for. And folks, I'm telling you, if you sit on your, and I'm talking to the Republican Party, I'm talking to these Republicans who got into Congress, who got into the presidency. That means you, Donald Trump, you better deliver. We, the people, delivered for you. Now you need to deliver for us. Fix it. It's what we've been asking for. Well, there's one person I can tell you in the Republican Party who actually recognizes this, who recognizes what I just said. Believe it or not, that happens to be Speaker Johnson. Here in Breitbart, Speaker Johnson, I think we've got a mandate from the American people. No, Speaker Johnson, it's not I think. It's I know we have a mandate from the American people. Wednesday, during an appearance on Fox News Channel's The Ingram Angle, House Speaker Mike Johnson dismissed Democrat reactions from former President Donald Trump's election victory a night earlier. According to the Louisiana Republican, his party had a mandate from the American people. He essentially responded to a question from Laura Ingraham, who was talking about Nancy Pelosi not congratulating or even acknowledging that Donald Trump was victorious. And he basically said, we don't pay much attention to what Nancy Pelosi says anymore. That's a good start. Just saying, that's a good start. But then he continues and says she's not in power and she won't be for a long time now. I think we've got a mandate from the American people. I was delighted to be with President Trump and the whole team in Palm Beach last night. It was such a great celebration in the wee hours of the morning. People are excited. We're exhausted from the campaign, but we are exhilarated about the days ahead. The majority of the people in this country want to restore common sense, he added. They want secure borders. They want a robust energy policy. They want a free market that thrives and creates more jobs and better economic opportunity for more people. We can deliver all of that. We know how to do it. Well, folks, do it. Just do it. Take Nike's slogan, just do it. And I have a recommendation for you too, Republicans who are now in office. There's this little thing called the Constitution. Yes, I know it's so hard to read. You could probably do it in about 15 to 20 minutes. It's really hard to understand too, because it's written in cursive or whatever. Script is what it's called. But let me show you this thing. This wonderful thing, which is one of the best amendments, I personally think, there ever has been and will be. Right here. Right here. It's called the 10th Amendment. Let me see if I can get that in close. Take a look at that, folks. 10th Amendment. You need to judiciously use the 10th Amendment for this next coming up at least 2 years, if not longer. because the 10th Amendment itself says the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively, or to the people. Which essentially means, folks, if it's not in the Constitution, y'all ain't supposed to be touching it. End of story. And believe me, there's a lot that's up there. Things like healthcare, and I hate to say it, but Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, handing shit out to all of these illegals, sending money off to Ukraine and even beyond, to be honest with you, even sending stuff off to Israel. All of that stuff is not part of the Constitution and should have fallen to the 10th Amendment. Well, I got to tell you, there's a group of people that has demonstrated that they are extremely happy on the return of Donald Trump. Now, I'm not much of a Wall Street guy. I mean, I have some investments, obviously, like a 401k, and, it took a hit. I didn't bother to look because, let me be honest with you, if you have something that is supposed to be a long-term investment, your best bet is to not watch it in terms of the ups and downs and highs and lows. But let me tell you something, folks. After Donald Trump won the presidential election, well, let's just say the market really liked it. Here's a live view from Markets Insider. This is today's exchanging and running. The Dow Jones Industrial, if you look at this chart that is to my right, yeah, there over there, to my right, okay, you'll take a look and see all of a sudden the market just kind of, roaming along, and then all of a sudden, wham, you have this big wall that shoots straight up. Guess what day that was? Oh, looky here. That is November 5th and November 6th. What happened on that day? November 5th. The election. What happened on November 6th? Donald Trump was named president. Elect. Yeah. Yep. And by the way, if you look, that blue wall has turned into a rising hump all the way through the last couple of days, people. The business world is extremely happy about Donald Trump being elected president. Because what happens is Donald Trump is going to do the a couple of things, majorly, that will allow them to be able to start making money again. He's going to open up our energy. He's going to make sure that we have lower taxes, and he's going to lower regulations and government spending. If he does all of that, believe me, the markets will take care of themselves, the economy will take care of itself, and so on and so forth. Which, by the way, in case nobody really let you know, the Fed actually dropped another 1/4 of a point today on the interest rates. They took it, or not today, but this week, they took it down another 1/4 of a point as expected. But anyway. Yeah. So speaking of the economy, there was a conversation that I was having with an individual on X. They shall remain nameless at the point, because I'll be honest with you, even though we disagreed, it wasn't like your typical moron Democrat spitting and name calling and everything else. They actually just disagreed, and they tried to back up their positions with, evidence. It was false evidence, but it was supposed to be evidence. And one of the things that, of course, they are talking about is the fact that tariffs. That's just such a bad word. Tariffs. Tariffs are so bad. Oh, it's going to make our prices go up sky high. All right. Let's talk about tariffs for a second. Tariffs are simply used to restrict imports. Okay? That's it. Simply put, they increase the price of goods and services purchased from another country, making them less attractive to domestic consumers. It's to equal out the playing field from things like stuff coming in from China, all right? And yes, I said it the way Donald Trump, or tried to say it the way Donald Trump says. And to make things that are manufactured in this country more attractive by potentially lowering the prices or being able to allow the local or the domestic producers to lower the price. All right. Now, there's typically two types of tariffs. One of them is a fixed tariff. It's a specific tariff levied as a fixed fee on a particular item. The other one is called an ad valorem tariff, which is based on the item's value itself, such as, say, 5%, okay, of a import's value, whatever that is. All right. Now, here's the thing. Governments impose tariffs for several reasons. One of them being the fact that you want to raise revenue. In this case, Donald Trump is looking to replace the income tax with tariffs. Now, keep in mind, folks, tariffs were the original way that the government was supposed to be able to raise money up until the point that the 16th Amendment to the Constitution made it legal to take your income, or to tax your income, I should say. Now, the other reasons to use tariffs are to protect domestic industries, consumers, and also national interests. Now, here's the thing. Tariffs have been in use for so long. In fact, we still have tariffs on certain items already still, because Biden never bothered to remove the tariffs. And in fact, he actually has increased tariffs on other countries' products. In particular, by the way, China is one of them. But here's the thing. Donald Trump did use tariffs. He used them back in 2018 and also 2019. He started them in 2017. And what happened? Well, according to the Border Patrol, who deals with customs duties, under fiscal year of 2018, during the Donald Trump administration, the first Donald Trump won, and by one, I mean the number one, not one as in WON, although he did do that. The duties received were basically about $41.6 billion. That's right, billion with a B. $41.6 billion came in the fiscal year of 2018. That was in response to tariffs that had been placed on things in 2017 to the 2018 era. Fiscal year 2019, the duties received jumped from 41.6 to 71.9 billion. Now, I seem to recall, I'm trying to think here, but I seem to recall that the economy, inflation was at a low, like below 2% on average during Trump's 4 years. In fact, his inflation rate, which was across 4 years, and assuming 2% already baked into the cake, you would think that the inflation rate across that 4-year span of time would have been 8%, but it's not. It was 7%. So his average run rate for those 4 years while he was in office was actually below 2%. And guess what? That was with tariffs raising $41.6 billion in 2018 and $71.9 billion in 2019. Folks, these tariffs are not something necessarily to be afraid of. Okay? They're not. They're just not. All right? And again, the thing about it is if these companies want to compete competitively without the tariffs involved, as he said, answering a question at a town hall, it's really very simple. All they have to do is build a plant here in the United States, make the products here in the United States using American workers, And all of a sudden, they no longer have tariffs because it's made in the United States. It's made domestically using domestic workers. And what the heck does that do? Oh, wait a minute. What does that do? That increases jobs. It sets up the economy, and for people to have jobs and money and be able to spend that money. I mean, oh my gosh, this is just so horrible. So horrible. These tariffs are just so horrible. We can't do this. Yeah. And these people, by the way, who seem to believe that this is a nasty thing, it's going to crash the economy. Yeah, take a look at his first term, because I'm telling you, it was already in place. He's already done it. He's not planning on doing much more. I think he's planning on doing more potentially, but the point is that it's already been done. It's already been handled. We have the historical evidence that it works. Okay? Tariffs worked. Cutting taxes worked. Cutting regulation worked. And cutting spending is going to work. You know, his Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, by the way, benefited the middle class the most, benefited everybody, but benefited the middle class the most, and brought in more revenue than just taxes or trying to tax people alone did. Now, a lot of people ask, why the hell does that happen? It's really very simple. And I'm going to break it down to you like this. If you create a widget, and let's say you sell that widget, you decide to sell that one singular widget for $1,000, okay? You get $1,000 when you sell that one singular widget. Instead, you go out and you make 100 widgets, and you sell each of those 100 widgets at $10 a piece. What the hell happens? Well, I sold a shit ton more, and guess what? Now I have, and this is just for illustration purposes, but now I've sold 100 widgets, and I now have $10,000 instead of $1,000. It's called economy of scale. The more that you sell at a lower price, the more profit you actually rake in because you're selling more. Your profit itself, the individual profit on any one given widget is lower, but you're selling a bunch of them. So you make it back up in terms of the efficiencies of your manufacturing processes, and you make it back up in terms of the number of widgets you're selling. And that's what Donald Trump is basically applying to the taxes. It's the same kind of thing. Okay? All right. Got a couple other articles for you here. Let's go ahead and do the first one. Project Veritas. You know, that wonderful outlet that James O'Keefe eventually left, but he helped found it at first. All right. So, I hope you're being sarcastic, Mark, over on Facebook. Anyway, so CNN went out and put a, made a statement on Twitter, I guess it was on Twitter. And, they basically claimed that, they said something and defamed Project Veritas. Okay. And so Project Veritas sued CNN for defamation. The original judge sided with CNN. Veritas appealed. And here, I might as well put that up here. So this is in Reuters. CNN has now found out from the appeals court that it must face Project Veritas's defamation lawsuit. Okay. So, essentially what happened here is the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals in Atlanta said that Project Veritas could actually sue over CNN journalist Ana Cabrera's on-air statement that Project Veritas had been suspended from X, then Twitter, for promoting disinformation rather than for publishing private information or doxing, which was the actual truth. So without ruling on the merits, the 3-judge panel also said that Project Veritas plausibly alleged that CNN acted with actual malice, meaning that it knew Cabrera's statements were false or that it acted with reckless disregard for the truth. So Project Veritas looks like they're going to go all in on suing CNN. Well, CNN's been just having some serious problems. Speaking of, just a real quick thing, speaking of lawsuits, okay, before I get into my next one, the judge for Jack Smith's case in D.C., the judge has rescinded the calendar or the requirements for the date requirements. She, I should say, Chutkin has rescinded those orders. So Jack Smith's request. So it looks like Jack Smith is looking to pause or shut down the cases. We already know that, but that was just the recent development. And also, too, one other thing. You remember that guy, that former Marine who was on a New York subway and intervened when a subway madman, and yes, he was a madman. He was on something or, whatever. He was attacking people. And this guy, Daniel Penny, went and grabbed onto him and tried to hold him for the police. What ended up happening here is that in the trial, he is on trial right now. They sat jurists a couple of weeks ago, and one of the witnesses pointed out that the guy, well, I'm going to call him the victim, but he was the attacker originally. The attacker raised his fists before the Marine did the chokehold. The witness himself was taking, or herself, was taking the subway home from school when Jordan Neely boarded. That's the guy that got choked out. So moments before, New York Marine veteran Daniel Penny placed the erratic Jordan Neely in a chokehold that proved fatal, which, by the way, it's not a chokehold, but he ended up dying. I'm not exactly sure it's a chokehold. It's a submission maneuver, but it's not a chokehold. Anyway, the emotionally disturbed homeless man raised his fist in the middle of a subway car while shouting at passengers. A witness testified yesterday. Morelia, Sanchez, an 18-year-old from Harlem, said she was taking the train home from school when the chaos broke out. Neely, 30, threw his jacket down and squared up, she testified on day 11 of what is expected to be a 6-week trial in New York City. If no one gives him water or food, he's going to start putting hands on people, she said. He was going to start attacking. She added that he was shouting at everyone on the train car, not at any specific rider. Despite the aggression, he did not touch anyone. After that, Penny started putting his hands around his neck, and after that, he dropped him down so that he was closed off from attacking people, Sanchez testified. Penny dropped down on his back, and Jordan was on top of him. And there's an image here you can kind of see of the particular situation here. It was a restraint, not a chokehold. But anyway, she said that she believed that Penny was doing it to stop Neely from attacking people. She got off at the next stop, called 911. She said Penny still had Neely in a chokehold at that time. Well, they call it the chokehold, but again, it's a submission maneuver. She noted that a second man, whom she described as a black male wearing a hat, helped Penny hold Neely down during the encounter. Under cross-examination, she said yes when asked if she felt a sense of relief after Penny placed Neely in a headlock. But she contradicted her own grand jury testimony when she said it looked like Penny was squeezing Neely's neck. She said it did on Thursday. She said the opposite during the grand jury proceedings. So, yeah. But then she was asked, did it look like the white man was squeezing the black man's neck? And she responded, no, he was holding him down so he wouldn't attack nobody. That's going to be interesting because this guy, Daniel Penny, intervened when other people wouldn't. And, yeah. All right, folks, that is it for me for tonight. Do me a favor, if you haven't already, head on over to rumble.com, get yourself an account. It is free to sign up. Once you do and are signed in, make sure that you find the American Perspective channel. It's really easy to search for it. And then hit that green follow button to make sure that you get notified every time I go live. Also, too, before you take off, make sure you hit those likes and thumbs up across all of my outlets. That helps this video gain exposure and helps me to gain more followers and people. That's what I do. I would like to expand this channel. We will see you tomorrow night. Tomorrow night is Saturday, so Saturday is an hour later at 6 p.m. Pacific time, 9 p.m. Eastern time, right here on American Perspective. We will see you tomorrow night. Have a great rest of your evening, and good night, everybody.
The previous broadcast was produced and is owned by Active Eye Media LLC. All rights reserved.